Morning, Jessica.
Morning, Andy.
Hey, Scott.
Hey, Eddie.
How you doing?
Not bad. Enjoying some spring showers.
I think we all are. It's real
Yeah,
nice spring showers, straight down rain. It's consistent.
yeah.
Couldn't ask for anything better, I would say.
Are you in your new place yet, or still to be moved into?
Oh, I'm in it. You're looking at it right behind me, the Taj Mahal here.
So you're deep in the throes of springtime yard work and all that comes with homeownership, and yeah.
You know, if I could ever be so lucky, I'm gonna be doing yard work soon. We just had to. It was quite a fixer upper. So we're coming up for air now, and now I'm looking at all the weeds in my backyard, and that is on my next to do.
Nice, awesome.
Oh, could be worse though. So you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Kate, nice to see ya.
It's funny. It's only been 2 months, but it seems like a much longer time since we've been together.
I know, huh? I was just thinking that today also.
I guess while we're waiting for others, your fixer upper house is in an older home, like from the 1910s, 20s, that vintage, or
No, it's not quite that old, but we're like 80. I think it's actually a 76 or 82. I want to
okay.
say it is, if I remember right. So wiring's updated and stuff, but we just kind of almost fully gutted the inside. Look, one of those where it's more work than you thought it was gonna be,
Yeah.
which is probably every house, I would imagine. So,
Are you doing a lot of it yourself, or are you subbing it out?
oh, doing all of it.
Nice.
Midnights, burn that midnight oil. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. The house I'm in right now, I it took me 2 years to build it with a full-time job, and it was just like it was a bad idea all the way around. Just terrible idea. But yeah, 2 years of nights and weekends, and here I am. But oof.
I'm envious of you, but Scott, it sounds like you're being the same boat as me, where 2 years later and you're still seeing stuff,
Oh
and
my
you're like,
God.
oh my God, what
Yeah,
am I doing?
that's the joke. I mean, it got 95% completed, and then I just ran out of steam, and
Yep.
it has sat for the last. We've been in it 18 years now. It's just a few more things left to finish. Like, oh no.
Oh yeah, decision fatigue's a real thing.
Yep.
Looks like we're getting everyone. Hey Chad, Andrew, Mark. Nice to see you guys. Sam, everyone, Sarah.
Look like we have everybody, Andy.
Let's see. Think we're waiting on. Let me look at my list. Mark Grembremer's not making it today. Is Courtney? I don't see Courtney yet, but we can, maybe give another minute and we can go ahead. But other than that, yeah. One, two, three, four. I mean, yeah, we can go ahead, Chad. We're not making any decisions today, so we're not doing any quorum needs or anything like that. So whenever you'd like to start, and we can always add Courtney, whoever comes in after the fact, to roll call.
Very good. Well, thanks for the meeting materials that you sent out earlier, Andy. Appreciate that. So with that, we will call to order the public meeting of the Private Forest Accord Mitigation Advisory Committee, meeting today, Tuesday, May 13th. We'll open up with a roll call. Andy, if you could lead us through a roll call.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. I will call your name. Please respond in the affirmative if you're present. Chad Washington.
Here.
Scott Lightcap.
Here.
Courtney Greisel. Fran Caparata.
Here.
Andrew Perky.
Here.
Mark Stern.
Here.
Mark Grimbremmer. Kate Wells.
Here.
Sarah Gregory.
Here.
Jennifer Weichel. I know Jennifer is online. They just messaged me. They had to step away for a minute. So they are present. Tiffany, who's marking it. Chris Allen. Chris Allen is out also.
Okay.
We're good. Hand it back to you, Chad.
Thank you for that, Andy. So with that, Andy did send the meeting materials out. Including that was a copy of our agenda and the meeting minutes from the last meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review the agenda? At this moment, we can approve the agenda. All right. Unless anybody has anything to say about it, we will consider that approved and move to our next item, which is the consent agenda, consisting of the meeting minutes from the March meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review the meeting minutes? Great. I'm seeing thumbs up and head nods. So we can approve the consent agenda unless anyone has any request for amendment to the agenda.
Chad, the only thing I would say is we have an update that we can provide. I guess I can go under staff report though for some comments from the department on OARs and appointments to vacant seats.
Okay. Great. Yeah, that's more of an update, but not part of the meeting minutes from last March, correct?
Oh, yes. Apologies. I was thinking ahead.
Great. So we will consider the meeting minutes from the March meeting approved and move into the third item on our agenda, which is the public comment. Andy, did we receive any requests for public comment?
Nope, we didn't receive any request. Looking if anyone's online now would like to provide some public comment. Now's the opportunity. You can raise your hand virtually. We can call on you. All right, chat. Doesn't look like we have any public comment today.
All right. So with that, Andy, I think you have the next agenda item, which is the 2024 grant cycle overview.
Yes, I will. I will take away. Thank you, Chad. And I'll first just hand it off to Jessica Watson to give some updates on where we're at with the administrative rule package, our vacant board seat, and I believe there's one more update we're going to provide.
Also can talk about where we are in kind of the budget legislative cycle.
Yeah, Ways and Means. All right, thanks, Jessica. I hand it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. Good afternoon, everyone. We hit that mark, so good to be here and provide an update. So just wanted to give you a little bit of an update first, kind of on the status of PFA funding in our legislative session. So that funding as part of the GRB, or the governor's recommended budget for the agencies, is currently sitting both with ODFW and ODF in Ways and Means. And so once projections come out, then those will move out of Ways and Means into work sessions. So right now we're just sitting right there in Ways and Means, so still there. When it comes to an update on the empty seat currently on the advisory committee that was previously held by Bob Salinger, the governor's office is currently reviewing candidates and aiming to make an appointment by June for that position. So just wanted to provide that. So hopefully for your next meeting, you will have a new committee member. And lastly, when it comes to the status of the PFA OARs, and just as a recap, so the department is currently in discussions and having conversations with tribes about the advisory committee's recommended proposed OARs. And I've been reaching out to the tribes and having some of those discussions, and we're looking to our intent is really to come back to the advisory committee with an update once we've finished those discussions, and then bring those OARs back to the commission, probably in the late summer, early fall time range. So just wanted to give you all an update that those conversations are moving forward. But we'll come back to you all with a full recap once they're completed. And that's all I have, Andy.
All right, great. Unless anyone had any
question on the recap, what is the purpose of that? Are you expecting changes? What is the...
Currently, the discussions are just making sure that the tribes are aware of the proposed OARs and just talking about the process. So that's where our discussions have been so far, not revisions, but more just discussing everyone's familiarity with the OARs and what our intent was with some of our proposed recommended revisions, and then the recommended revisions that came out of the advisory committee.
Okay, great. Maybe that can come back as a consent agenda item so as not to eat up too much time in the meeting itself. Just a thought. Looks like Andrew, you've got your hand up as well.
Yeah, Jessica, is the budget update expected tomorrow still? Is that
I think that's the expected time frame. Yeah.
in any intelligence?
No
rumors?
intelligence on my end.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, we'll find out soon enough, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for the question, Andrew.
Mhm.
Any other questions for me on the updates?
Those are great updates, Jessica. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for letting me have some time to provide them.
All right, Andy.
Perfect. All right, chat, just a minute, guys. Let me get my notes ready. I'm going to reshare screen here. Find the right one. Chad, hopefully you can see what's coming in here.
Yep. All good, Andy. Thank you.
Let me just, my team's jumped around. I do like to look at you guys as I present. So 1 second here. Okay. Oh, the squares got real small. Sorry guys, I'm dealing with the Teams update right now. All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Chad. For the record, my name is Andy Sperka. I'm the ODFW Private Forest Record Grant Coordinator. So I'm going to be doing a lot of chatting today, about the recent grant cycle. So I'm just going to get right into it. I want to start by saying thank you to all the people involved in making the recent 2024 PFA review cycle and RFP happen. We have dozens of individuals involved across the state and region, from local boots on the ground staff to regional state and federal partners. It takes a lot to get our March meetings to happen, and we couldn't have done it without the help of every single person's contribution and expertise towards this program. I'd also like to take the time and thank the grantees who submitted applications. I know more than anyone that this isn't an easy lift, and while we can't fund every project, we do see the merit in many and know the lift it takes to get them submitted. So for those who may have been listening, as I've noted in emails the last month that haven't gone out, if you have any questions in regards to your proposal or want feedback on improvement for the next solicitation, please do not hesitate to contact me directly. We have a process set up to facilitate this, pretty robust, to give you some great feedback and insight ahead of the next solicitation. That said, I'd like to spend the next few slides discussing the 2024 review cycle, what went well, what could have been improved, and end with a discussion, hopefully amongst the committee, for recommendations in the coming 25 RFP cycle. I have a few slides to get through. I will be opening up discussion after a few slides as we move through this presentation, so it's not just me chatting the whole time to you guys. As you all know, our second solicitation was very successful in terms of applications. We had over $34 million requested, with only $10 million available for funding. We had to face some tough decisions on funding, and while every project submitted did have merit, we ultimately decided on 23 projects for funding that met the intent of this grant program, providing the most conservation benefit towards the anticipated ODF PFA habitat conservation plan. For contrast, in 2023, we had 74 submissions and over $43 million requested in funding, which I'll get into in the next few slides. While this was a decrease in submissions and funding requested, I don't view it as a reduction in our success, but instead the program collectively engaged our community and better messaged the type of projects that we have intent to fund, which I'll kind of get into right now. So in this slide, we're taking a look at the grant submissions across two solicitation cycles, 2023 and 2024. Our goal here is to compare and contrast the distribution and volume of submissions to help inform future outreach and funding strategies. Starting with the map on the left, this represents the 2023 submissions. As you can see, there's a clear concentration of projects in regions 1, 2, and 3, with a particularly dense cluster along the western corridor. This aligns with ongoing riparian restoration and forest health projects. That said, take note to the relative lack of activity in Region 5, which indicated a potential gap in outreach or a need for more targeted funding opportunities in that area following our first inaugural solicitation last year, 2 years ago, I guess. Now we'll shift over to the map on the right, which shows the 2024 submissions. We see a significant increase in projects density, particularly in regions 2, 3, and 4, suggesting that our outreach effort in these areas may have been successful in attracting more applicants. Additionally, we're now seeing new clusters of activity in Region 5. This is, of course, positive development, including increased engagement from previously underrepresented areas. It's great to see. Comparing the two maps side by side, the increase in submissions is evident not only in volume, but also in distribution. The eastern part of the state, which had fewer projects in 23, is now showing more activity in 2024. This raises questions about how our targeted outreach, funding, or partnerships may have influenced the shift. In addition, this does make me ask if we're seeing alignment with conservation priorities, or are there emerging areas that need more focus. Moving forward, we should conduct a deeper analysis to pinpoint the factors driving increased submissions in certain regions. This could include targeted outreach strategies, refining funding priorities, or better identifying specific project types that align with our program objectives. Additionally, given the increase in submissions from Eastern Oregon, we may want to explore how to sustain the momentum and make sure these projects are effectively supported throughout the entire state. All said and done, I understand that we are only 2 cycles through this brand new grant program. with much more opportunity to grow and distribute funding in the years to come. That said, I do think we're on the right track here with our solicitations, with our engagement and outreach. We'll get in more into it later. Before I move on, are there any questions or observations from the committee on this slide? I want to give you guys the opportunity. Like I said, I'll be asking after the end of every slide.
Yeah, Andy, on the areas you identified as maybe needing more concentrated outreach on the 2024 submissions image.
Yep.
What criteria made you think that we need more in that area? For example, the Harney County line there's no stream networks. We certainly wouldn't say that we're missing projects there based on geography alone. So what other characteristics are you using to determine that we have a lack of projects coming from there? With regards to land use, communities, stream networks, what types of things are you looking at?
Yeah, I appreciate it, Chad. Thank you. It's continually to evolve, right? I'm digesting all this new information as it comes in, as we look at reviews and feedback. Initially, it's going to be the streams. Stream reaches is what I'm looking at initially. You got it on point there in that South Central area. We're not going to have much projects there, but in that Northeast, there is still just that chunk right now. So this is more of a preliminary analysis of it. I hope to get more into the weeds later. And engage more with landowners over there. I do think that northeast corner could use a little bit more engagement. But there is that reason that I put these streams there, to be able to show where that engagement can be, Mark?
Yeah, just I think what you were saying is you thought there were more submissions from Region 5 and 24 than 23. But it looks like about the same number when I count the dots, for what that's worth. But I guess the real question I had is, as you look around it in terms of, these were the applications, in terms of the funded grants, how did that distribution look, if you have in your own mind, as you think about it, relative to the submissions?
Yes. And thank you, Mark, for that clarification. So actually, man, I did want to put that in here, and I apologize. I skimmed over that. We did fund a few more in Eastern than we did previously. So I apologize that data's not there, but I do feel that we've engaged a little bit more with it in this year, in this cycle. I'm gonna move on to the next.
On that geographic distribution of funded projects, it is something that we've discussed as trying to incorporate as we can, but it is not a requirement nor a priority of the program itself, right?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Chad. As I kind of stated, either in the last slide or in this one, the priority of this program is providing conservation benefit and uplift to the list of covered species throughout the state. And that's kind of our highest priority when it comes to funding. So great point, Chad. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Andy.
I'm going to go on to the next slide here. So on this slide, we're looking at the breakdown of lead applicants for grant submissions in 23 and 24. This visual gives us insight into which applicant types are most actively participating in the PFA grant program. In 2023, the largest share of applications came from nonprofits, 501c3 organizations, making up 31% of submissions. Watershed councils also represented a significant portion, while soil conservation districts came in third, around 11%. Notice the diversity in applicant types, from private companies to federal agencies, indicating a broad range of stakeholders engaging with our program. In 2024, on the right, we see some shifts. Nonprofit 501(c)(3) organizations increased their share to around 38%. Remaining the dominant applicant type in this program. Watershed councils, still significant, saw a slight reduction in 25%. Soil conservation districts decreased slightly to 9%. And we're also seeing more participants from federal agencies, which now make up 8% of submissions. Hi, Scott. I see your comment. I'm just going to make it through these talking points, and then I'll open up the floor. The key takeaway here is that we have repeat applicants across both years, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Consistent participation by specific groups can indicate sustained interest and capacity to implement projects that align, again, like Chad just brought up, with the private forest accord grant program goals. However, it's important to consider whether repeat applicants are achieving impactful outcomes, of course, and whether there are untapped applicant types that could be brought into the fold to address specific program priorities, which we're going to learn in the years to come as this program evolves and as projects begin to conclude. Again, we're only in our second year of this. Moving forward, we should consider strategies for balancing support for experienced applicants while encouraging new or underserved applicant types. This could include targeted outreach, capacity building resources, or incentivizing projects that address specific program goals that we've outlined. Again, the objective here isn't to limit repeat applicants, but to ensure with the funded projects continue to advance the goals of the Private Forest Accord Grant Program effectively. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Scott, I don't know if I answered yours, but please.
You may have any, and I may have missed it. I was curious, is this a representation of just strictly number of projects submitted by each of those categories, or is this funding requested by each of those categories?
Funding, so this is all applicants who have applied based on those funding categories. So they've all requested funding based on it, not what we funded. Yeah.
Not how much they requested, kind of a thing.
Not how much they requested. No, that's not a bad metric though. In the future.
Number of applications.
Correct. Number of applications. That's all we're looking at is who's applying to this program in this slide.
It would be interesting to see how much they've requested as well. I think that would be very telling. Could be very telling.
That is. I appreciate that insight. Thank you for that. I'll put that note in for next year when I do these recaps. Thank you, Scott. Courtney?
Yeah, I think in next year I'd be also interested to see there's applicants, but then there's also based on award. And so just to kind of get a sense, sometimes organizations will stop applying when they start to feel like their reward, their award is not coming to fruition. So I think, watching things like local communities and agencies and municipalities start to decline in application, it'd be interesting to just keep an eye on that.
That's a great point. I appreciate that. Yeah, and it's very true. There's, if people keep applying for one project type and we're not funding it, they kind of take a hint and move forward. But that would be a great metric. Add that to my notes.
That'll be important for the committee to consider as well when we're looking at the applications themselves. Projects that are conducted by, say, county government or municipalities may come with a higher price tag for that level of uplift. But if we are interested in retaining them as an applicant, to Courtney's point, their effort needs to be commensurate with the award. And so if they're putting in a lot of effort, but because those are high dollar to benefit projects, we are not awarding those projects, we're likely going to see a decrease in those applicants. So just something to keep in mind over the next grant cycle.
Yeah, this is great feedback. These would be really good insights for us to look at. And we'll have a little bit more data to chew on next year too, to actually give some more insights. I appreciate that. This is great. Any other thoughts, comments, insights? I appreciate the feedback.
The only other insight I would add, Andy, is we have a sample size of 2 here. So we shouldn't be trying to establish trends or anything like that. This is just a side-by-side comparison of 2 points of time.
Yep, exactly. Thanks, Chad. I appreciate that. No, that's exactly what we're doing. It doesn't go too in depth, and that's the whole point of it. Just awareness. All right, so this slide provides a comparison of project types funded under the grant program for the 23 and 24 open solicitation. The objective here is to examine the distribution, as we've been talking about, of implementation, planning, and research projects to assess how well we are aligning with our program priorities. Looking at the 23 data set on the left, the majority of funded projects were focused on implementation that aligns with the program goal to drive on the ground impact. Planning projects accounted for 16%, research and monitoring 8%. While implementation dominated last year's solicitation, it's worth noting that planning and research projects play a critical role in setting the stage for future implementation. Now, as we shift to the 2024 data on the right, we see a slight redistribution. Implementation projects still hold the largest share of requests, but planning projects increased a bit. Research and monitoring projects also grew. This shift suggests that applicants may be recognizing the importance of building a strong foundation through planning and data collection, which can ultimately lead again to more effective implementation outcomes as long as they align with the program goals and priorities, of course. Sorry, I'm just reading my notes. I just repeated a whole paragraph that I don't need to repeat to you guys again. Moving forward, we should continue to monitor this trend and assess whether, of course, the balance between implementation, planning, and research and monitoring is advancing our strategic goals. We're years away from that, but that's something to consider as we look at this year by year, because I do hope that we can continue this analysis after each grant solicitation. We also may want to explore targeted funding or outreach to ensure that planning and research projects are effectively setting the stage for impactful implementation in future grant cycles. With that, are there any kind of questions on this slide or insights or recommendations?
Andy, again, this is project applications by project type, numbers of applications, right?
This is all numbers of applications, correct? This whole slide
So,
will be.
it would be helpful in the future to have project type by award. So number of projects that were awarded. The project type by application is interesting, but I think it's less telling than projects that were selected. And then
Yes.
I heard a couple of times there the term trend, and I would caution you again that there are no trends here. If a trend develops, it's something to keep an eye on. But again, this is just two data points.
Correct. It is like I've been saying, just 2 years comparative analysis. I do think I provided stats in previous board packets on what was awarded, so I just didn't want to repeat information back-to-back meetings. But I am happy to kind of recap that next year. I'll put it in my notes to recap it as we work through this, so you can have a side-by-side comparison at the same time. I appreciate that. Any other questions on this, on who's kind of we're engaging and how we're engaging? That's kind of what I'm getting at through this presentation, is making sure we engage our applicants and community well.
I don't want to speak too much here, Andy, but I would just say that that looks like an appropriate mix of project types for what our goals of the program are.
Appreciate it, Chad. So as part of closing out the 24 solicitation, we asked applicants again this year to provide feedback on the grant process, and 31 of our applicants responded out of 64, which is a good number. This gave us a solid snapshot of how the program is landing with our users and where we might need to make some adjustments. Encouragingly, 90% of applicants agreed that the application instructions provided clear and sufficient guidance. Another 90% felt the process itself was straightforward and easy to follow. When asked if they would recommend the program, 74% said yes, with another 19% indicating maybe. So we're seeing strong support for the program overall. 87% said they felt the program communicated effectively, which suggests that our outreach and updates were hitting the mark that we were intending throughout the solicitation. That said, we did hear some reoccurring critiques that are worth paying attention to. The application felt long to many users. There were mentions of redundancy in a lot of the questions, which we're continually working to refine and streamline. Several folks flagged that the grant management system platform that they use to apply was glitchy at times, which can impact how they interact with the system and collaborate on it. The feedback doesn't necessarily reflect any kind of broken progress, as we've been kind of repeating like broken record here. It's just our second year in the solicitation, but it does give us a few areas to explore further as we look ahead to the next solicitation. We might want to think about streamlining the application, and we are also currently working on updating our grant management system and fixing some of those technical bugs in it also. Real brief snapshot of feedback. Any kind of comments, thoughts, additional feedback? You guys all reviewed the applications and what you might have thought about it.
Scott,
Andy,
looks
I'm
like you came off mute.
Yeah, I was just curious if this feedback was requested prior to announcement of award or after announcement of award, as that could certainly influence somebody's willingness to contribute or what they said.
Great question, Scott. It's actually through both. So when they do submit an application, they get an immediate notification saying acknowledging their receipt of the application and a request to fill out this form. When they get an award of yes and no, they also get a link to the survey at the same time. Mark.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good feedback and obviously generally very positive. As you and I shared a little bit offline before, I think if it is possible to create some brevity in the application, that'd be good. I found myself feeling like I was reading some of the same information more than once in the application. And I say that partly, I don't mind doing that so much, but when I think about the technical reviewers, we got a whole list of technical reviewers looking at 60 some grants. Obviously, we have the applicants doing it. If there is a way to shorten things up, that would probably benefit all of those groups. With us probably being the least priority to have a shorter application because we're probably least impacted, but I did have that feeling in reading it that I felt like I was reading some of the same information more than once in the responses.
I appreciate that, Mark. And yeah, that's kind of top of mind for me when I engage with these applicants on feedback. I set up meetings with them sometimes, and it's a heavy lift, like I said in the beginning of this presentation, and we appreciate the time that they take, but we also want to be respectful of it. So I'm continually I'm working on that, looking at it. Once the solicitation does close and I start to get feedback, I immediately start to work on the next solicitation. So I'm hoping this one will be a little bit more streamlined, and I encourage as I present the solicitation to this committee in summer, in late summer, please feel free to take a red line and start Xing out stuff, combining things. Your guys we're kind of a brain trust here. That's why we got all of you here to help with that. And I really, really do encourage it. Let's ask what needs to be asked, and then they can go and do the important work that they do as grantees, watershed councils, for-profit companies, and get out in the field and boots on the ground. They don't have to spend too much time with this.
Andy, I think Mark's comment is spot on, and it begs the question, have we had the same feedback provided by the technical reviewers? They might be another group that we should seek input from, because if we're asking a question that doesn't inform the decision, then maybe we don't need to ask the question.
Yes.
There may be questions about the project that aren't actually informing any decision. They're just additional information. Or maybe there's things that they would like to know that aren't quite accurately captured in our current list of questions.
Great insight, Chad. I appreciate it. We do send out a reviewer feedback survey where they engage. I talked to a lot of them. Surprisingly so, this year's a lot of the feedback I remember from reviewers is it was more thorough. They were able to get a better understanding of the projects. I think there's a Venn diagram there. I think there's some kind of crossover between what applicants want less. Reviewers felt that it wasn't horribly redundant. They thought they got better grasp, but we'll find somewhere in the middle there. I think we're aligning those priorities.
Excellent.
Any other thoughts on the application, feedback? And there doesn't need to be any answers now. Like I said, I'll be working on this for the next few months here. And I welcome your guys' feedback. We'll probably launch again in this fall for our next solicitation. So I'll probably send the committee draft stuff by the end of summer or early fall for review a month ahead. Again, I encourage your guys' redlining and your expertise to come into that. Super helpful. All right. So again, I'm kind of focusing on engagement here in this presentation. So as we reflect on the 2024 review cycle, I pulled together what I think did work well. And we've kind of touched on a lot of this and where there may be room to grow. This is intended as a conversation starter. So I'll walk us through these highlights and then hopefully open up the floor for any more thoughts. Starting with what worked, our outreach and communication seem to be landing much, much better this year. The past cycle saw a greater engagement. We brought in some new faces. Applicants consistently pointed out some clarity in our guidance, even though they pointed out it was long, but they said it was very clear this year. Eligibility information was clear. We're providing a solid foundation on the front end. We're getting much better with upfront communication, is what my understanding is. Internally, we saw more efficiency in our review process, thanks in part to the continued refinement of our scoring rubric, tighter coordination across the review teams, and of course, repeat reviewers. They know what to expect as this comes around for a review cycle, so that's super helpful. And of course, what worked real well is we hit our timeline goals again this year on award announcement, on review cycles, and everything, keeping things predictable for our applicants, which is super, super helpful for them when they're planning a year in advance for funding. Now looking at opportunities for improvement, I just named some stuff here. This is where I would really appreciate some additional insight at any point in the next few months. I'm an open book. You guys can call me whenever. I'm always available to chat about it. So what I'm thinking is what from the feedback or your own experience resonated the most in this whole review process, this last solicitation? Are there parts of the process, either applicant facing or internal, that we should revisit or refine? What else should we be doing to strengthen the future RFP cycles, especially as we continue to grow this program? And again, my last point, which we've kind of beat down, is redundancy in the application. Don't need to bring that up again. With that, I'm happy to entertain any additional discussion, but we kind of got into this on the last slide. But is there any other thoughts or comments?
Andy, you mentioned higher engagement, yet we had fewer applications. So what is the engagement metric that this higher engagement, what does that come from?
I'm just looking at, again, right now, since we're only comparing 2 years, is geographic. I think we just hit a little bit more geographic engagement. While that's not our top priority here, as we've kind of elaborated on, I appreciated seeing the distribution across the state.
Okay, so this is really highlighting the fact that there's a greater level of geographic distribution.
Yes, it's not just west side or east side or something like that. That's all we got. I guess, I don't have too many metrics yet. Next year we'll have more in the years to come. We'll be able to give a much more thorough understanding of where we're at. But yeah, that's it right now. Pretty basic.
Very good. And then as far as process, what resonated, I just, again, want to thank everybody on the committee, because I think it was a really high level of collegiality during the actual grant review and award process. I felt like everybody was comfortable in bringing their valuable insights into that conversation, recognizing we all have different backgrounds. So I just want to say that seemed to go really well this year. Thank everybody on the committee, ex officio and technical reviewers, for that effort.
Yeah, I just want to echo that, Chad. I actually got feedback from some of our applicants saying the same thing. They really they appreciate us kind of lifting the curtain on how this stuff, how the cake gets baked or whatever you want to say. Multiple grant applicants are surprised at the process, but appreciative of it. And they did comment on how much they appreciate you guys actually vocalizing how you come to this decision and how you work together. It's almost like you talked to one of the grantees that called me the other day to talk about it, repeating the same sentiment.
Nope. I hand them your phone number, Andy.
Andy, regarding the timely award announcements, can you remind me again when folks were notified of success or not,
Yes.
and then when those funds would be available for them to use?
Great. Thank you for that, Scott. That's a very good point. I'll just kind of take a step back and review the whole cycle real quick from when they apply. So we make the solicitation available in fall. Usually we open up in September-ish for about 2 or 3 months, close in December. We do a review cycle from December through March. We then go to commission, Fish and Wildlife Commission, following the committee meeting in March. So April is when we go to commission. We make the award announcements then. So that is, this year we closed in November. So that was December, January, February, March, April. So they had 5 months before they knew about the award coming. And then we do say in our application, they should expect October of the following year to get an executed agreement. That's put in very clearly throughout the application. So they have 1 year basically. That's due to a lot of administrative processes that we're working and streamlining as a new program to fix up and button up, and we're doing much better this year. We're already working to execute it. So I set up one-on-ones. I'm probably giving you more than you wanted, but when we announce the awards, I give them a call, we talk. I then set up one-on-ones with each new grantee. We go over what to expect in this program. They get a welcome letter. They get told about different processes. We meet, discuss, answer questions. We're looking at probably our first contract being executed in the next 4 weeks here, 3 to 4 weeks. Of course, if it's above 250,000, it goes to DOJ. Hopefully next year, with our revised administrative rules package, we have in there approval, as OWEB does, for projects to start upon commission approval by Fish and Wildlife Commission. That's going to be a game changer for a lot of our grantees and applicants.
Okay, yeah, that helps. Coming from the project world, it was a bit surprising to me that there was such an extended time duration on before those funds would be available, and so it sounds like there's some flexibility there in terms of when they get notified, April, May, versus when they can actually use the money, do their own RFPs for contractor availability, that kind of stuff. So as long as people know that going in ahead of time, maybe that's something we just hit extra heavy so that people are aware that this money may not be available for you the summer of 25. It's likely summer of 26 before you can use it for your project.
Yep. We've course corrected this last solicitation. In every one of my meetings, I say, it's looking like we're going to execute sooner, but I'm going to stick to my October one because that was right under your execution. You're in the application. They all acknowledge, yeah, we saw it. But yeah, it's a big hindrance if we're waiting that long. Mark.
Yeah. Hey, Andy, you mentioned, the April commission meeting. I'm just wondering when this was presented to the commission, if they had any comment or feedback or what the tenor of that conversation was like.
It went really well. I'm happy to hand this to Chad if he wanted to speak to that at all.
Yeah, Andy, I would just echo the same thing. It was very well received. There's recognition of the good work being done by the program. Andy had prepared a very nice PowerPoint that we walked through. There was a comment by one of the commissioners that we should continue to seek new applicants, not just new applicant types, but even new applicants within the same type, because it was obvious to her that we were getting repeat awards and just making sure that we aren't ending up in a funding echo chamber of 4 or 5 organizations continuing to receive high levels of funding without bringing new folks into the fold. That was the only substantive feedback other than, this is great work.
Yeah, that's helpful.
I would invite Jessica to add something to anybody, Andy, that was there is welcome to add comments.
No, I'll just say that was covered. I was just going to mention, that we did have that one comment, but you mentioned it, Chad. So thank you.
Andy, do you know, we had 23 successful applicants one year and 24 the next year. Of those 23 and 24, how many had successful applications in both years?
I don't have that number in front of me actively, but I appreciate that, Mark. I can I think that would be a great analysis to add in next year. I'll put that in my notes for next year. We would definitely have some good data on that then. Just
relative to the comment from the commission, I'm not sure there were that many. I'm sure there were a few, but I don't think it was an echo chamber.
Now that you say that, I'm trying to think. So my meetings, I've had probably about half. I've met with half of the awardees so far, and we've set up their initial contracts. Of the 24 that we have this year, I want to say we definitely have 2 of those that I've already met. So, we're looking at maybe a handful. I don't think we're any more than 5. I think we're probably looking at 2 to 4 who got awarded again. Yeah.
And Andy, when you provide that, it would be helpful to understand if we funded a planning application in the first round and then implementation in the second, that's a little bit different than funding the same type of application.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly true. I'm going to present on a project when I conclude this real quick. I have one slide to go over Baldwin Creek, and we funded them for the next phase. So that's a great point. I'll bring that up too. Thanks, Chad. Andrew?
Yeah, and regarding the pool of applicants and making sure we don't see it narrow too much, it'd be good to know how much is lack of familiarity with the program versus lack of feasibility to respond to the program by those organizations. Because it could be a combination of both, but the response is different depending on what the reality is.
Perfect. This is great. Alrighty. Thank you, everyone. This is great feedback. Sorry, just typing up my notes. So in 8 months, when I do this again, I actually know what I'm I'm gonna present on again. So just a quick minute as I kind of put that together. Okay.
And I'll
Anything
just
else? Oh, go
close
ahead, Chad.
with, that comment about diversity of applicants is just like the geographic distribution thing. It is something that's nice to consider while we can, but that's not a priority over accomplishing the program goals, right? It's not equal to uplift provided. So we go through that process and then we decide, to the extent possible with the pool of applicants we have, consider diverse applicants as far as not refunding the same over and over. I just think we need to be a little careful of how much we emphasize the importance of not funding the same groups year over year. There can also be a capacity and expertise component here where some groups that receive funding year over year are doing so because they have the capacity and expertise to execute these applications and projects. So we just need to be a little thoughtful about how we're doing that. I guess repeat funding isn't necessarily a bad thing.
I would echo what Chad just said there too, Andy. I think that's incredibly valid. And I know, when I was funding projects with some other funding sources, it was kind of an arbitrary division, but I think I had 80% going to, priority geographic areas with the other 20% earmarked as for capacity building to kind of address what Chad just mentioned. Some of those folks may not have the staff that has the expertise to put together a really great application. And it's just a matter of they haven't been funded in the past. So a little, I guess, call it seed money, if you will, would go to some of those other projects that were equally important, but they weren't as polished as some of those in those, from those stronger partners who had done it quite a bit more. So just food for thought.
This is great. I appreciate it. All right, I got my last two slides here. We've kind of touched on the conversation I wanted to have, especially from this slide with engagement. So I'm not going to repeat a lot of that information. I would like to, show your attention to the proposed actions, what I'm thinking about for engagement over the next year. And I invite you guys, as you kind of digest this over the next few weeks or months, to, if you know about an opportunity, give me a call, shoot me an email, let me know. I am happy to get out there and engage. We want to make this program more aware as much as we can so we can really get that benefit, reach that grantee who has a really good project that meets our program goals of providing conservation uplift. We want to make sure they know about this program. So that's building more local partnerships and improving information sharing networks, hosting more informational sessions, possibly, site tours, virtual and especially in person in rural areas to lower the entry barriers, especially to a big application, making the application process more accessible, whether through plain language material, technical support, or training. Thoughts of increasing our presence through targeted advertising or outreach in underrepresented regions that we want to get into. And showcasing, of course, funded project within these regions to build visibility and encourage peer-to-peer learning, which we'll be doing later this year at a field trip. Again, I say all of this with the acknowledgement that we're only in our second year. We're still young, but we need to start thinking about these framing questions at least. And I think it's been a really healthy conversation, and I appreciate it. Again, I'm not going to go any more into this. We've had some good conversation around it. My last slide is to talk about Baldwin Creek Fish Passage Project, a recently completed one. But before I get into that, is there any kind of closing comments or thoughts on this year's solicitation, engagement?
Andy, when you're looking at focus areas and you lay this map out of the regions that are, well, pretty arbitrary as far as where those lines are drawn, we set those ourselves. It would also be informative to have the extent maps of the species we're looking to provide that benefit to. So if you see a gap in Harney County, and you're also able to see, well, there's no species we're focused on in that same geography, well, then that kind of tells a bit of a story.
Agreed.
So maybe consider extent maps as another layer when you're presenting this, where are gaps?
That's a great idea. That's a big reason I put the streams in there. But yeah, more data. I really like that. Thank you, Chad. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and talk about this my last slide here. Been a lot of talking. And I appreciate the insight that you've all provided. Very helpful. So I wanted to close today by highlighting a project that embodies the kind of impact the program is designed to achieve, the Baldwin Creek Fish Passage and Habitat Enhancement Project. Before and afters here. So the left one's the before, the right one's the after. The Baldwin Creek Fish Passage and Habitat Enhancement Project, led by the Hood River Watershed Group in partnership with the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs and other private landowners. The project's located just outside Mount Hood, addressing critical fish passage barriers and degraded in-stream conditions on a key cold water tributary to the East Fork Hood River. With support from the PFA grant program and other partners, the team is enhancing over 1.25 miles of habitat over there, reconnecting 11 acres of floodplain, and opening up access to 2 miles of stream for winter steelhead, coho salmon, and resident trout. The work included replacing the perch culvert, removing a failed diversion dam, adding large wood for habitat complexity, and restoring riparian vegetation. What's especially compelling here is the layered benefit beyond the target fish species, or the target species of this program. This project supports amphibians, birds, and even beavers, and it's helping improve resilience to climate extremes in a high priority watershed. This is one of the many examples of our grantees doing meaningful, high impact work on the ground. And it's not just the grantees. Your guidance as a committee plays a critical role in ensuring the projects like these are identified, supported, and successful. It's a team effort between local partners, tribes, agencies, staff, and all of you, and the outcomes are starting to speak for themselves as these projects work to be concluded. With that, I'm wrapping up my presentation. I just want to say once more, thank you so very much for all of those involved in making this program a reality, and a big thank you for everyone's time here today, your thoughtful review, and your commitment to making this program stronger each cycle. I look forward to building the momentum that we have in this program and working together in the years to come. Hand it back to you, Chad. Thank you for your time.
Any other questions for Andy? Any other questions or comments for the good of the order?
Yeah, Chad, I just throw something out for the group to consider. Since this is kind of our after action review of our, the grant process. It's been 2 months, since we wrapped up our in-person meeting, and I've had a lot go on in those last 2 months. So I think I've probably forgotten some of the tidbits that were fresh in my mind as, shortly after having gone through it. So I'm wondering, is there any way to bump this process, this after action review, a little closer to when we close out those grants? I know it would probably be before the commission votes on projects, but it seems like when the process is very fresh in our minds, you might get more of what you're after, Andy, in terms of helpful feedback on how to change the application, or does the application mesh with our review form, or things like that. Because I remember as I was going through it, I had a few things. Oh, I need to mention this to Andy, but I did not write them down, so they are gone.
Yeah, I understand that. And I appreciate it, Scott. One thing we do like to do after an intensive review period is give everyone a break for about a month. I can work on thinking of ways to maybe send a survey to you guys where that kind of captures some of that stuff, a real brief survey, like what I do with our reviewers and what I do with our grantees. I get very busy during the period of selection, creating your in-person meeting, selection, commission, that it's hard for me to download these metrics to an extent, and especially next year as we look at more metrics. Doesn't mean we can't do it anytime quicker, but I'm happy to think of a solution that might work out for that. I think it's a great idea.
And I think you had a great suggestion with a survey in that shorter time frame as a prompt for us to write down those things that are fresh in our mind that we can then discuss and debrief, at this time frame. Does that get at what you were looking for, Scott?
Yep, that'd be great. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't add too much to your workload at that time, because you'd become very busy at that time. So if you could just send that brief survey for us as a prompt to write down what's fresh on our mind, might serve all of us well.
I'm surprised I haven't done that, actually. So yeah, great idea. Andrew?
Yeah, Andy, any additional details on the site visit this fall?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, let me get this note down. I'd be happy to chat about that in a minute here. That's a great post. Cool. Yes, so we're actively working Coos Bay area, right? October 1, 2, 3. So October 2nd, that Thursday. No one's yelling at me that I got the wrong date. So October 2nd is when we're going to be in the field that day in Coos Bay, looking at the Toledo Tide Gate project. We're working on outlining what that looks like. I do have some draft agendas going right now. It's going to be a mix between highlighting a really good Tide Gate project down there, looking at some regional priorities, and also connecting it with the PFA grant program. So we're understanding who's going to be a part of it. Of course, the grantees will be there. We've started working with them. Our regional staff will be there. And we're looking at engaging some landowners too at the same time. People are really, really excited to have you guys in the area. Like, it's real excited to get you guys down there and to get you to go look at their project that they're very proud of. So that's all I have right now. It's still in development. I hope to have more coming in the next month or two here as we start to set some stuff in stone.
Will we travel together and then pick up Courtney and Eugene at the side of the road and Scott and Roseburg and just kind of make our way down? Or what's the logistical thinking?
That'd be great. So first night, hotel, you have the opportunity for a hotel. The first night, Tiffany should have already reached out. If not, she is planning to. We're still identifying the hotel in that area, but it'll be very similar to our in-person meeting. First night hotel, second night will be everyone meets up. We take you all around in vans and stuff. We give you lunch, dinner, and then we head home the third day with an option for another field trip. I can, of course, when we get down there that first day, I'm going to be heading from Salem either the morning or the day before our first day, but I am happy to carpool anyone down there too. I know.
Yeah, I was going to say, in all seriousness, besides picking up you guys on the side of the road, it would be great to try to carpool as much as we can. It seems like everybody driving down there makes little sense, unless people just have to relative to their schedules.
Yeah.
But there's not a state van or anything that's available for that purpose, right? It would be in somebody's.
Yes. Well, yeah, we'd have to. Great question.
It seems like I don't know how others feel, but I also think just to travel down together is an opportunity to spend time together and
make engagement.
Whatever. Yeah.
I appreciate that.
At the very least, even if we aren't able to carpool, having motor pool vans available for the actual tour itself might make logistics of the tour day a little easier. It's the caravan thing, especially if not everybody has radios, can get complicated once you're getting more than a few vehicles turning around and all of that.
Complicated and provocative too.
Yeah, we'll be.
Locals see the caravan and they're like, "What's going on here?" So
yeah, we'll definitely be motor pooling that day.
Although the motor pool probably provokes.
Yeah, we'll have quite the entourage that day. Going to our sites. With the final tally outside of just this committee, I'm sure the grantees that are showing off their project will want to bring their boards. They'll be on site too. Not that we're taking them around. And then any other people in that region who we want to invite, who's part of this PFA program too, right? With our other partners. And then an opportunity, like I said, for engagement and outreach. There might be other applicants in the area that are interested in hearing what you guys have to say about projects. So we're exploring a bunch of opportunities of what this field trip still looks like, but I hope to nail down some stuff in the next month here and get to you guys.
So this is the opposite of what I was advocating for in the first place. But if we were to travel down on our own, what is the policy or appropriateness of a spouse or partner joining? Is that not for the tour, but just to come down?
Yeah, and I can connect with you there after,
Okay.
Andrew. We do have a policy for that I can
Okay.
share with all of you guys here,
Yeah.
and what that looks like. That's not a
Okay.
problem. So I'll be able to share that for everyone.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Same thing. Like I said, expect that dinner on the second night too. That we're all be kind of.
And he just, I'm really familiar with the Southwest Oregon area. And so if folks on the committee are interested in any other project type that they had questions about, hadn't seen in person, just wanted to add to their repertoire of, their knowledge base, I can reach out to dozens of different project proponents. They may not be PFA proponents, but you could certainly see a completed project, whether it's stage 0, elaborate fish passage stuff, in stream, helicopter, excavator, horse-drawn placements. It's all down here and available if folks have that interest. So just let me know and I can help set that up.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because that Friday, we have some preliminary thoughts. I'm going to be doing a closeout site visit for one of the projects we funded. So I was going to be inviting the committee to join me on that closeout if they wanted to. It's a pretty quick visit in the morning. So there's opportunity thereafter to kind of go check out some other maybe stuff that I can connect with you, Scott, on. I'll put that in my notes and maybe we'll connect on that. And I think you've offered that before, so I apologize if I forgot about that.
No problem. Happy to help though.
I'm happy to take all the help I can. Yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at. Like I said, they're super excited to get you guys down there. They're really excited. So really appreciate that time. I know it's gonna be a big lift to go somewhere for 3 days. But thank you. I don't have anything else, Jeff.
Yep. In closing, I just want to thank both Jessica and yourself again for clearly demonstrating every time your enthusiasm for and investment in the success of this program. Doing awesome work, and really appreciate all the support from ODFW, both you and the technical reviewers and everybody. Got a very good team there.
Thanks, Jeff.
With that, I think we can adjourn the meeting. Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Thanks all.
Have a great day, everyone.